Well, Loki delivers an episode called Science Fiction. Oh, yeah, because this is all science fiction. It's not. It's La La Land magic, mostly. But then Loki knows how to do magic, doesn't he? Well, okay, so everything winked out at the end of last episode, and then Loki appears to be the only one left, kind of like the one who remains. Yeah, see? So he's back zipping through time and stuff, and then he meets the other cast members, but now they're in normal lives. Mobius is a guy who sells jet skis. Ouroboros, Short Round, is a wannabe science fiction writer. Casey is one of the guys who escaped from Alcatraz, which is actually pretty interesting because to go to somebody of some people who disappeared. No one really, it's largely assumed they drowned in the water and the bodies were never found. There were some stories, like one of them, some people said, oh no, he got away, we saw him, and that sort of thing. But it was never really conclusive as to what happened. So you could come up with a narrative, well, at least one of them ended up at the TVA and all that. So Loki is trying to restore the TVA, so he figures he's got to find these guys. And in a roundabout way, they almost have a pretty okay episode. But it drags on. It's really like all the episodes, even this one. You could have done it in 5 minutes. And then, of course, he has to find Sylvie. Oh, Sylvie. Why? Because she's in a version of him. So, because she blames them for everything. Then gets mad at them for not doing everything, then is mad at them for doing everything. There's really no point to this character. But at the end, what was blatantly obvious as to what was going to happen, and then Loki tries to convince her to join the group. He collects all the people, telling them who they really are and bringing them back and all this stuff. And he managed to save, once again, a copy of the manual. He gives it to Ouroboros, and now he knows how to make, the little time door machine. And then tries to recruit Sylvie, and she says, no, don't do anything. Leave it alone. They're living the lives they were supposed to live. And then Loki's all depressed because he couldn't convince her to, run away with him. So he goes back and says, oh, just go home. It doesn't matter. And but then he knows everything's unraveling. He's got to make the. Why didn't he make the case? Now, granted, stuff was already disappearing. She just didn't notice it. Well, she noticed her bag of burgers was gone. And after all that, she decides to go to her favorite vintage record store. And the guy offers a suggestion for her because she's feeling kind of bad because, she has feelings for her male self too. And so she sits down to listen to this record, so they have to slow down the scene while you listen to the song. And I'm like, oh God. And this is like going to be her moment to realize maybe I should help Loki. But no, the universe starts unraveling and turning into spaghetti. And that's what, I better do something. So at least it shut up the stupid musical interlude. And then it turns out she's got a time machine doorway thingy with her. I'm not sure how, since they all winked out, and I guess somehow, well, of course, she had been to the He Who Remains world as well. I'm guessing that's the explanation as to how Loki is able to zip in and out of time, but you never see her do it. But you would have to conclude that she's affected the same way, and she ends up back where she wanted to be, working at McDonald's in the 80s. Yeah. So anyway, but how did she keep her thing in her pocket? Loki is able to get the manual by zipping in and out of the empty TVA offices before it all turned to spaghetti. But it did say, fail-safe initiative, activated or whatever. So I suppose that's a clue. of something afoot. But ultimately, Loki appears to have gained the power of He Who Remains. At the end, everything's winking out at the last minute. Everything turns to spaghetti, and he's the only one left. And then he just can't accept it. No, and then everything's restored. So then he realizes, oh, I can control this. And one of the things about it is that Loki's personality is completely different from the character he has been. And to pursue the power would have been probably a more credible plot device for him when he realizes this is the ultimate power and that he would want it for himself. But instead, but you can argue that he was broken by the realization that there's a power greater than anything he had ever conceived when, they treat the Infinity Stones like paperweights and all that sort of stuff, thinking it was kind of silly and funny despite the damage it does to, with respect to their initial run of their Marvel universe and everything, and just say, it was nothing. Bit of a problem there. But that's the explanation for, why he's more about wanting to protect his friends and all this stuff, and he's in love with his female self, Sylvie. Why? Because she's him. and that sort of thing, rather than him saying, oh, wow, I can have Kang's power, then I would be the ultimate arbiter of everything, but he's become that as a result of this, I guess. I mean, that's what he did in this episode. He stopped the dissolution of existence, and by sheer force of will reined it back in, and then he zips back in to the moment before the loom was destroyed. So I don't know if that means he saves Victor Timely and thereby Kang, or what have you, or this was all the plot of He Who Remains to begin with. Why he would have to do that when he could have just done nothing and did away with Loki. So, we'll to see how they wrap it up. But hey, they could have solved everything, and the Loki show could have rebooted the whole Marvel universe and just forget about all the other movies, and they start over from scratch. But then, most people wouldn't be aware of how this happened because apparently nobody's watching D Plus anymore. So that's a problem too. But at the time that they put this together, they weren't thinking that ahead. They thought they had this whole thing mapped out. With now, it's looking like quite a few shows may never see the light of day. Movies may not get done. That sort of thing, because time is running out, and they don't have the He Who Remains power. No. So anyway, some interesting moments, but it's the same thing. Not enough to justify this. He went to Mobius's actual house, so that was different. And that was about it. But again, it's just another thing that, you could have wrapped this up in 5 minutes. You stretch things out a bit because you don't have the material. They would have been better just doing Loki movies, a 2-hour special, and same thing for the first season, which, or just not do it at all, probably better. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Something between Tom and Owen, I think, could have worked well. I think you don't get a lot of that here, despite the fact that they have scenes together. That's one of the big weaknesses of this episode. But it's all about the material, and they just don't really have it.